a meticulous guide on how I travel the world. I was just in the Balkans, Montenegro and Albania with my parents for about a week, and all the ideology I'm going to talk about in this video was present in that trip. I'm constantly learning more as I travel more, but thus far this is my current thoughts. Now, step one when you're traveling is you need to have an idea, a goal, a vision of what you want to see. And well, step two is to forget everything I just said, because an adventure needs to be just that, a start point and an end point, but the middle is supposed to be full of surprises. So what do I mean by the highlights? The highlights are like the main checkpoints of your trip. You're gonna figure out what you wanna see, what you absolutely can't leave the country without seeing. And so each one of these is going to be your destination for the day, the week, the month, whatever time period you allocate towards it. And part of this step for you might be figuring out the path for these highlights, which one we're gonna see first and second and third and so on and going from each one to each one to each one to each one. I don't really like to plan a path. I think it kind of is limiting and too constructive on which direction we're gonna go. I would rather just say, I wanna see all of these things, but how I get there is up to me in the moment.
I think we should get a Whopper. I mean, when in Albania.
A map is a terrible thing. It's a great thing, but a terrible thing. I mean, like 20, 30 years ago, before we had Google, Apple Maps, all that stuff, you had your physical paper map and you were trying to figure out your routes and what you were going to do. But these days, you just pull up the phone, you open up your map, and it'll give you the most direct route to get there. Which, yes, in some circumstances, that's great, that's lovely. But when you're traveling around, that's actually terrible. No phone, no directions, nothing. Put that in your pocket, don't look at it. You're gonna find it eventually. You're gonna find your point, and you're gonna find a lot more cool stuff that you wouldn't have seen if you had just taken your phone out, popped in where you need to go, and headed that direction. And I think maybe that sounds a little intimidating if you've never done it before. Like, I'm gonna get lost, or I'm not gonna know where I'm going. And that's happened to me a fair bit on trips too. But that's kind of part of the experience of traveling, is you don't know what's gonna happen. You don't know what's right around the corner or what's gonna come next. And it's just great too, like there's so many distractions on your phone, messages and stuff. Try and put that away, turn it off, don't have connection, like stay as far away from your phone. You have a limited time to be in a place, in a moment, in an experience. And enjoy that for what it is. Food's an important one when you're traveling. For some people, it's the most important thing, the entire reason they are traveling.
I bet you everything is good here. Even that looks good. Seriously. I'm thinking about asking for mine.
I think for me, it's actually one of the least important things, but I know that I'm kind of a weird exception in that. Grocery stores have everything you could possibly want. There's always an option. There's always something you can eat. There's always something you can find in a grocery store. If you asked Xander or my parents or Kendall or literally any of my friends, a lot of them would probably say, you know, that's kind of crazy. Like, go eat the food in the country, experience it, go to restaurants and stuff. And yeah, that's great. You can do that from time to time. I'm not disagreeing in that, but I do think grocery store is your best friend. I think this is the most important one, and it's to learn to adapt. When you're traveling, at one point, something's gonna go wrong.
What country are we in here?
It's guaranteed. It's life. You're out, you're exploring, you're in a new place that you don't know. Something's gonna happen that's not expected. And when that situation presents itself, you have two options. You can let it ruin you, or you can get out there and work on what's next. And I think that's the most important thing. And it's happened to me on every single trip I can think of, especially in Albania when we were there. We had planned to do a 2 to 3 day overnight hike up in the mountains, but unfortunately my mom injured herself, and so we couldn't do that. It wasn't a viable option. It wasn't ideal, but we took that situation and we made something good out of it. Let's drive back to the airport. Let's go get permission to drive into Montenegro. Let's go explore that. And I mean, when one door closes, another one opens. It can sometimes be a good thing. We never would have seen Montenegro or all the amazing, beautiful stuff that it had to offer had my mom not gotten injured. If you know how to make the best of it, you can take even the worst of situations and put a spin on them. Get to work, figure out what's next. You can take everything I just said with a grain of salt if it doesn't fancy you. Like, I get that we all travel differently. We all like to explore and have our own adventures in our way. I do think if you're looking to spice things up, to try something different, try following a few of these. It really does make for a good adventure. I've been on enough to know that they work out. And mainly these guidelines are just kind of what I like to do when I'm traveling. If you're open for the idea, it's a good building block to start off your next adventure. This trip is sponsored by Winston Douglas Chamberlain.